Well, hello and welcome to the Lighthouse here on a very cold and windy day on Print Island. You will see I am dressed accordingly as the Lighthouse Keeper. My name is Richard Askam, and I'm privileged once again to be joined up at the top of the island by my guest today. Perfect timing, couldn't be better. I'm still amazed that he's got his voice intact because he's a Scotland football fan. If you're American, that's soccer. But Colin Sinclair McDermott, welcome to my Lighthouse.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure. And yes, still very much smiling from last night's result at the football.
So just for those of you that don't know, I'm sure there's nobody, just for those of you that don't know, at the time of recording last night, Scotland reached the final of the World Cup, which is going to be in the US and Canada and Mexico next summer. So it's a massive, massive deal for them. Huge deal for the country, I think. I mean, as everybody says, no Scotland, no party. So I'm guessing you're going to be going next year, are you?
I'm certainly hoping so. I was messaging my wife this morning. She's currently over in Africa and making sure that we had plans in place for heading to the States or Canada or Mexico next summer. So fingers crossed.
Excellent. Well, I suspect, Colin, that you will be contacting your American and Canadian and Mexican clients and going, shall I pop over for a face-to-face handshake sometime next summer?
Yeah, I'll be counting on them to help me get tickets as well. Don't you worry.
Good. Well, why have friends if you can't lean on them when you need them? That's
Exactly.
the point, isn't it? So listen, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me on Print Island. We've tried a few times to get this. We had some technical glitches along the way, so this is, I think, third time lucky. So it's great to have you on the Lighthouse today. And if there is anybody out there that doesn't know who the hell you are, I'm sure there isn't. But give me the 30-second review of Colin Sinclair McDermott. Go.
Yeah. Ultimately, I'm a business coach for the printing industry. I do one-to-one business coaching for clients all over the world, the beauty of being online. And I also run an online training platform and community called Print Mastermind. And I think the one thing that helps set me apart from a lot of the other coaches out there is I had my own printing company for a number of years. So I come from the coalface. I've been there. I've bought the T-shirt. I've experienced the highs and lows of running a print company, and now I'm on a mission to help as many print business owners out there as I possibly can.
That's brilliant, and let's go straight back then to those days where the ink was under your fingernails, and tell me a little bit about just sort of how you got into the industry, where your journey really started and continues from today.
Yeah, sure. So my stepfather was from a reprographics background, so it was always kind of destined. Even in those teenage years when I kind of fought back against it, and I looked into
as we all do, Colin. As we all do, yeah.
And it pulls you back in. But I wanted to be a marine biologist, a mechanical engineer, but it was obviously always meant to be. And I kind of went to the printing college in Glasgow for a few years. And was fortunate enough. I was one of the only people who get a chance to go and get a job interview for a local, upcoming, very busy city printers in Glasgow. And I went in there. My first job was a junior estimator. And I kind of got quite lucky as such because the guy who ran the estimating department at the time was headhunted to go work for a label printers on the other side of the city. And because I'd been doing such a good job, I think within 3 months I was promoted. I was literally running the estimating department, and that gave me great insights just into all the makeups of kind of producing print work. And from there I moved into production, and then I seen all the fancy sales guys. Back in those days there was a lot more money in the industry, so they were driving about in big fancy Mercedes-Benz and BMWs and Audis, and I wanted a piece of that action and moved into the world of sales after that.
Okay, so really you've been around the houses in terms of the print world, but all within that one company, or did you work for multiple companies?
So I eventually was headhunted. We'd actually relocated to the other side of Scotland, and I was still travelling back and forth every day. So I eventually was headhunted to a company on the East Coast, and I went to work there for 3 years. And it was whilst I was there, I'd built up quite a nice client base. A few people had kind of suggested that I could go it alone and become a print broker, print manager. And it was whilst I was at that company, I decided I was going to go self-employed and launch my own business. That was back in 2003, 2004.
Wow. So, I mean, really, that's quite unusual in the sense that most people that are in the online world
Mm-hmm.
today have been in it for less than 5 years. COVID was
Mm-hmm.
a big entry point, I guess, for a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people into not only into self-employment but also into utilizing what we're doing today,
Yeah.
talking to each other online. So you were way ahead of that curve then in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, my first business was predominantly offline, and kind of I brought a lot of my existing clients with me, so we were dealing with some fairly big businesses back then. I mean, Royal Bank of Scotland was my biggest account back then, and sadly, when the recession hit, we lost their RBS account. And they centralised all their print back down to Solihull in Birmingham, so that was a tough one. And then about 2 weeks after that, we get hit with a fairly major debt. And just the way the industry was, the economy was back then, it was hard to come back from. So I actually lost that first print business back in 2008. And yeah, you dust yourself off. I went to work for a book printers down in Wales for a year. It was always a temporary kind of stopgap at that point. And whilst I was there, I read a book called The E-Myth. I don't know if you've come across that one.
I have, yeah.
Yeah. It's all about systems and processes and franchising, and I got some crazy idea in my head that I was going to start a franchise print business. And back then, obviously, things were starting to move online. So 2009, we launched an online print franchise, and that was me learning from the mistakes. I made a lot of mistakes. Obviously, that first business, I was young, I was naive, and you take those lessons on board, and you try and kind of rebuild something. I went on to do that for quite a few years afterwards.
My dad always used to say, and I followed my dad into his drinks business. I come from the wine industry, really, in my past, which turned out to be the labeling industry. Who knew? But my dad always used to say to me that if you when you get to the end of your working life, and if you look back at your working life, if it looks like a straight line, you've failed, because you've missed all the opportunities that would come from wiggling one way or another. Now,
Yeah, for
sometimes,
sure.
and as you've just eloquently described, sometimes those wiggles are done to you, not by you, but they are all learning points. And I guess as we reach the age where we call it wisdom now, Colin, rather than old age, where you can look back on some of these things, and I know you categorize them as mistakes, but I would say that they were learnings, because unless you are willing to learn. Unless you are willing to fail, I should say, you can't be willing to learn. So you've got this wealth of experience now that you have as a coach in the print industry, from having had proper bullets fired at you. Yeah,
100%. Yeah. 100%.
And do you find now with the coaching work that that there's not many things that people can tell you that you haven't already experienced yourself firsthand?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly. I would say there's a large proportion of that, either experienced myself, or through the other clients that I've worked with over the last 5 years as well. So again, I'm still learning every day. I specifically put time aside to try and enhance my own learning each day as well. But yeah, I've certainly. What I like about what I do just now is that I can resonate with a lot of these challenges that people face on a day-to-day basis, and I can, more often than not, kind of come up with examples of kind of how I dealt with it, maybe what I got right, maybe what I got wrong, what did I take from that particular situation. So, I would say it's fairly accurate to say that I've probably taken some of those bullets over the years at some point.
And I guess, and you said, your stepfather was your gateway into the print industry, like my father was my gateway into the drinks industry. We're not very good at listening to fathers. We tend to think that they're all wrong and we're all right. And it's only when you get to a certain age and you go, oh, okay, maybe they were right all along. So, but as a coach, and sometimes as a parent to another child, sort of thing, they listen to you more. And do you find that there is that willingness, that openness? Because it's always struck me, Colin, in the 10 or 11 years that I've been working in the print industry, how open people are to collaborate. So when you take out those familial relationships that cause the barrier
Mm.
for communication.
Yeah.
Do you find it as an opener world as a coach as it seems to be?
I think it has to be honest, for it to work. I've got quite a kind of strict onboarding process because there needs to be that openness. Otherwise the relationship won't reach the potential that it possibly has. So, yeah, I mean, certainly when I'm going through the onboarding process, like it's having those honest conversations. It's again a lot of the time, certainly with coaching, like people know what they should be doing, but for whatever reason they're not doing it. They maybe just lost focus, and it's my job to kind of open their eyes to that, to challenge them, to tell them things they don't want to hear sometimes. I've had numerous cases like that this week alone. But also just to remind them of what they should be doing as well. And yeah, if you don't have that openness and honesty and transparency, then you're not going to get the best out of a coaching relationship. So I think it's critical, and there has been cases in the past where I've perhaps had to part ways with certain clients because there wasn't that kind of willingness to share and to look at things from a different perspective. But most of the time it works, and I think, as I said, the process I go through before I kind of take on a client helps because you can quickly identify who's going to kind of be willing to make the changes and who's not.
And I guarantee, I bet my pound that this phrase has been used by you a number of times over the years, because I always find, and I do a little bit of coaching myself in the public speaking world. So I've used this expression myself, that when somebody asks you something quite specific, the answer can quite often be, you already know the answer, you just need me to tell it to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, there was a case just yesterday where a client was coming to me asking for advice, and to be fair, I'll always give it, but in this particular case, I actually went back to him and I said, "Put yourself in my shoes. Kind of, how do you think I should respond to that?" And more times than not, they come up with the answer themselves. But again, just having, and I think that's the beauty of working with a coach who's got that experience in the industry as well, is I've kind of lost my track a little bit here. Sorry. Where was it?
That's all right. It's the football. It's still going on in the back of your head.
There. Where was I going with that? I was going a particular route.
Okay. We'll come back to it. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, let's look back to it. You're going to edit this, I'm sure, anyway. So
no, we leave it all in. That's absolutely fine. So don't worry about it. But I do think it's coaching is quite a strange world for people who have never had it to understand. Those that have and been successful understand it very well. It was once described to me as, it's not therapy, but it is therapeutic. I think sometimes people just like talking, don't they?
Yeah, I think, and that this is, I've kind of remembered where I was going with that as well. But
you would.
But yeah, I mean, I've got one client I was with this morning. Actually, we've been working together now for about, that will be about 4.5 years, and I swear he just comes for a little bit of a therapy session. But again, when you're working with someone who's worked in the industry as I have, it's just having that sounding board as well, because
sometimes,
again, I don't know if you've experienced this, but so my wife she now works in a charity in Africa, but she's a qualified vet, and so she's not from my world. But I would come home at night and I would kind of want to talk to her about my day and sound off and things. She would always say the complete opposite from what I wanted her to say, and that wasn't her fault. That was just, she didn't understand the day-to-days of running a business. I think she gets it a little bit more now, because she's now managing a fairly large team and she's having to deal with people. I mean, I think dealing with relationships within a business is probably one of the hardest things, to be honest.
Yeah.
So again, when you've got someone who you can bounce ideas off, who you can use as a sounding board, who understands the business, I think kind of goes a long way as well.
Yeah, no, I've got a wife that disagrees with everything I say as well, but that's got nothing to do with this conversation. So, but it is quite fascinating, and I think one of the things that struck me more than anything when I started doing work in the print industry, and not long after the Share a Coat campaign in 2014, which I was heavily involved in, and I got struck instantly by the willingness of people in the print industry all over the world to talk to each other.
Yeah.
And that, that peer support, if you like, is I think it's quite unique, to this particular industry. I think it's sort of uh, based in that sort of deep rooted love of what they
Mm-hmm.
do.
Mm-hmm.
And when somebody loves what they do, they want to tell people about it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to use the word hobby, because that's I don't mean it that way, but it's got that sort of feeling that a hobby would give you, that you want to share that with other people. Does
Yeah.
that help you as a coach? Because in a lot of cases, communication problems start with getting over the barrier of actually talking. Most people I know in the print industry love talking.
Yeah.
It's just getting them to talk about the right things, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And so as I mentioned, I've got the Print Mastermind, which is an online training platform and community. But we tried launching this, and this is one really good thing that came out of COVID was we tried launching this kind of back four years ago, and trying to get different people in the industry to come together and be so open, like you're talking about the peer support there. It was a struggle, and it was a struggle trying to find the right people. And we kind of pulled back and we relaunched with a new structure, and thankfully, it's now going kind of extremely well. But we get together. In fact, we've got a call later this afternoon, where all our members come together. Once we're now moving to twice a week, but where you've got people from commercial print, signage, garment decoration, promotional, the merchandise, and we all get together and we share what's going on in each other's businesses, what challenges we're having. Kind of everyone chips in with kind of how they've handled that or what they would do, and every person leaves with at least one little golden nugget that they can go away and apply to their business. And it's really, it's. I mean, we deliver training and things in there as well, but the real people come for the content, but they stay for the community aspect.
Yeah.
And I think when you've got that kind of network that you can bounce ideas off and similar business, and we've got people in that membership turning over everything from £100,000 a year right up to 10 million a year. And everyone is learning from each other. It doesn't matter what size of business you are. The problems maybe just get a bit more expensive, but
Yes.
typically kind of everyone's going through the same stuff, and it's really important that you've got that network to be able to have those kind of conversations with.
No, 100%. And I had the guys on last week from Sheet for Brains that are doing a brilliant job about encouraging people not only just to talk about the industry and their shared problems from a work perspective, but also their shared problems from a human perspective. And again, I think that predisposition to want to talk is a great starting point for a lot of people. So it is quite remarkable, Colin, that for an industry that is so good at talking, the only thing it appears to be bad at is talking to people who aren't in the industry. And one of the reasons that I created Print Island really was to enable them to continue to talk to each other on the island. There's my metaphor. But then we have a broadcast platform from there that the rest of the world that doesn't understand how good print is and doesn't understand the multiple verticals that operate within it, it just sees one word and it makes an assumption. So you're nodding and smiling, so I know you agree with me. But do you feel as though we're getting any better at exporting this information now off the island, as it were?
We're certainly talking about it a lot more. I think we can always do more. I think I've been involved in a few expos recently over in Printing United, the print show in the UK, and there's definitely a conscious effort to be educating people more in what we do. Obviously, we've got podcasts and things like that, and we hope that lands in the right kind of pair of ears. But I think we're definitely getting better. Certainly the younger generation is a big focus there. Because again, like you say, all the different verticals, people don't, like, I'm sitting here in my office just now looking around me, like, how much stuff is actually printed. But to normal people out there, out with the industry, they don't see these things when they're walking about shopping malls or down the high street and things. And it's up to us to educate them. And again, I was on a coaching session just before this, and it was actually, we were training the customer service team just to get them thinking a little bit differently when they're talking to their customers, because I think one thing as an industry we're very guilty of is really just taking that one size fits all approach. And and anyone who's got a print company out there, we've all got customers who don't fully understand all the products that we offer. Kind of like, we're leaving money on the table there first and foremost.
Mm.
But again, one of the presentations I done earlier this year out at D-Scoop in Long Beach was talking about how we become trusted advisors for our clients as well out with the industry, because we shouldn't always assume that they know what they should be buying from us. Like, it's up to us to really do a deep dive into understanding their kind of business, their sector,
Yeah.
and giving them ideas about other things they can be doing. And I think as an industry, we're very bad at that. We're very guilty at just marketing to everyone and hoping something sticks. And I think we need to understand kind of the strategies behind that and get better at becoming not just print service providers, but marketing advisors, trusted advisors for our clients. So there's a lot of work to be done, but certainly there's a big push with the younger generation just now. As I said at the print show, FESPA had the Next Gen committee there doing tours around the show. The young people in print were there. They were doing tours. Again, over in Printing United, you had a lot of the universities down. We were involved in running tours out there, as you know. So we're getting better, but there's still so much more work to do.
Yeah, no, I agree, and in many ways, I'm sort of pleased that there's still more work to do, because that's the work that we're trying to do with Print Island.
Yeah.
And I was joking last night with Warren, actually, one of your fellow All Stars, that the print industry has a PR problem, which is ironic because the first two letters of print are PR. So we're missing a trick to a certain extent. And I do wonder whether, because as the industry has grown and the verticals have grown, and actually that next generation are part of that growth story because of the level of content creation that they can now do themselves.
Yeah,
I wonder whether there's almost a case to rebrand the industry so that it's a bit clearer, the verticals, because you have. Yeah, we talked about cars, right? Warren and I were talking about the auto industry. When you talk about the auto industry, you know that they're talking about cars. So you don't need to explain it. Yes, there's vans, yes, there's trucks, but largely it's vehicles with engines and wheels, right? You say the print industry, and my answer would be which bit? Because there's so many. So I just wonder now whether, as we go forward, an idea might be to separate those verticals out into almost industries themselves and stop badging it at the top with this huge umbrella. Don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a really strong observation, and I think it is too broad, to be honest with you. So, it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense, and perhaps it can start to resonate more with people that are in those individual spaces as well. And again, you've got to be passionate about what you do. So, if we segment it down even further than that, then hopefully we can start to bring in more kind of talent, because it is evolving. Unfortunately, you missed out on Printing United this year, but like
pirates, I had a pirate syndrome basically.
You'll be there next year, I'm sure.
Yeah, I hope.
But yeah, like, my mind was blown actually, kind of just how exciting this industry is just now, and the opportunities that are out there. And we have to just get better. And I think what you've suggested there's a really great idea to perhaps make it easier to bring people into the mix.
There's another element as well, and you mentioned 3 or 4 trade shows there in the last few minutes, and of course, by their very nature, those trade shows are for the trade. And although I totally agree and applaud the willingness and desire to get the next generation involved, and we've always struggled to get brands and agencies involved because they don't quite understand it and they don't really want to either in many cases. So I wonder, and I put this to Mark Subers a few weeks ago, actually, when I was talking to him before Printing United, maybe there's room in the world for a consumer print show where actually, instead of it being trade to trade, it's actually trade to consumer. Because if they only knew 10% of what the print industry does, as you say, everything in your office is printed. People don't think that way. So maybe the time has come for. They do this with electronics, of course, don't they? The Consumer Electronics Show, and people from all over the world come and see what other people are inventing. I think there's time that we do a consumer print show somewhere.
Yeah, it's not a bad show, and even just going a step in between that as well. Like last week we had the business show down at the Excel in London, as you might know, and even some of these organisations actually having a presence at these events. Showcasing what's going on, like even if that's a stepping stone towards what you're talking about. But again, I can almost guarantee that nobody was, and I think that's maybe an idea for some of the organisations in our industry to even kind of use that as a middle ground to work towards that.
There's a trick being missed, isn't it? Because you could argue, and I understand the argument, that why would an OEM want to be at a show where the person attending it isn't going to buy one of their machines?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And yet the counter argument is, why would you not want to be at a show where you can tell people what you make so that more of your customers will buy more of your machines?
Yeah.
It's just which way you see the onion ring, isn't it? Really, and I guess because I don't come from the industry in my background, I'm not saying I'm intelligent in any shape or form, but I see it differently. I see the opportunity differently, and also the opportunity that's being missed quite clearly, because those big shiny $1 million machines, you'd need more of them if people only knew what they did.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think there's definitely an interpretation of the industry that's very, very dated, and it's up to us to, and again, just having conversations like this and hoping it just resonates with one or two people each time. But yeah, there's a lot of work to be done.
It's the challenge, isn't it? That I think all companies, this as a coach, you know, in many cases, I suspect some of your days are quite hard because you're talking to people and going, go on then, why are you doing this sort of thing? And there's a little bit of pseudo parenting going on in terms of giving people permission to actually do what they're good at. So I think if you expand that out to the whole world and to the whole industry, that there's probably a generational shift that has to happen mindset wise. And these things don't happen overnight, and I'm being deliberately glib, but you see my point. And if in 25 years time we're still having this conversation, then we will have failed to move that conversation on. And that's, whereas I feel right now that the previous generation failed because we're still having this conversation. So that's kind of where I come from.
No, I agree.
Yeah, interesting times though. And 2025, Colin, it's been an interesting year. I think on many cases, and political headwinds and geopolitical headwinds and wars here and conflicts and the bloody media and all of that stuff. What are you looking forward to in 2026? We always have this imaginary line, don't we, that on New Year's Eve it's all going to get better again. So what are you looking forward to in 2026? And what are your reflections on 2025?
Me personally, or for the industry?
You personally. Yeah.
25's been a very fast year for me, to be honest. It's been wonderful. I really started to ramp up my speaking opportunities in 25. And I'll be honest, and I'm sure you hear this all the time with your coaching and the speaking circuits and things. But I was very, very nervous about getting up on stage and talking to large groups of people. And I've broke down those barriers this year. So I typically do printwear and promotion, sign and digital at the start of the year. And then the big one this year that kicked off some of the larger expos was D-Scoop. That was in May out in Long Beach. And again, you've always got those concerns about, are people going to understand me? This is my posh Glasgow accent I've got on today.
What was it like at the football last night? Were you not as posh at the football last night?
You didn't hear this version last night, I can assure you. But yeah, and to be fair, I went out there, had an amazing experience at D-Scoop, and again, the confidence comes from that as well. And I think even just having we do these weekly community calls, and you're typically managing 20 to 30 different people on a call at a time. So I think that's definitely helped with my confidence and ability to speak to kind of larger audiences as well. But then I was out in Printing United there, ran a presentation on the Wednesday, and it's amazing how much I've flipped it this year, where I now really enjoy, I cannot wait to get up on that stage, and the feedback I've had on both these conferences out in the States actually has been phenomenal, really, really encouraging. And yeah, do you know what? As long as you're helping people, and again, no one's going to come to your presentation wanting you to fail, because
Nope.
they want to hear good stuff. They want to leave with kind of valuable information. So I think the more you do, the better it gets. So for me, that's been a big plus this year.
Great.
But again, the things we've got going on within the community, seeing the growth of my clients, like one client I'm working with had messaged me last weekend. So we've been working together for about 2.5, 3 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And we've literally doubled his business, doubled his profitability. And he was just sending me a message to say, look, well, this is where we're at. Thank you so much.
Wow, that's nice.
But when you start to see the impact that these conversations have, then it's fantastic. In fact, I had another one the same weekend. Another guy kind of would basically set a kind of monthly revenue goal that we were targeting, and he smashed it. He smashed it 3 months earlier than we expected as well. So again, there's been a lot of wins like that this year. Seeing the growth of the clients I'm working with has been amazing, and kind of allow me that continue. But we've got big plans for the community going into 2026. I think I've already got 13 speaking engagements booked for next year, all over the place. So yeah, I'm really excited. I'm really excited about what we've got planned for next year. And I'd heard something when I was out in Orlando, actually, but someone had kind of quoted it was a Print Week article, and it was something along the lines of it was to do with the printing industry in the UK, and something like 37% of UK print businesses turn over less than £150,000 a year, which I found quite staggering, because especially having been out in the States a lot this year, and I had this conversation with an American printer, and they were like, "Wow, like that would be a failing business over in the States." It's a very different mindset, and there's a different mindset out there to what there is here, and very different markets and economies as well.
Sure.
But I've kind of made it a mission that I want to bring that percentage down. I want to help grow the industry in the UK and beyond as well. Our clients are all over the world, but we should be so much better. We should be so much stronger. There will be businesses out there who want to stay small, and that's okay. Everyone's entitled to their own goals. But for those that do want to grow, I want to work with them. I want to help them. I want to be a part of that journey with them. And yeah, that's a big mission I'm taking into 26. But we're living in exciting times. We've not even touched on AI, but the opportunities that businesses have just now to scale and utilize AI, and I've said it a few times in other channels as well, but the ones who don't adapt to the new technologies emerging, they're going to get left behind. It's pure and simple. It's interesting. I'm watching a lot of my clients, how they're implementing it into various aspects of the business, everything from reporting to production workflows to content creation. But the impact that it's having is all positive. So I'm really excited to see how that evolves next year, because again, we've not even scratched the surface of where that's going to go, and probably a large percentage of people in the industry still don't really understand how AI can help them.
I think there's a huge percentage in the world that doesn't, Colin, because it's the newest tool in the toolkit. And cast your mind back, 25 years when the internet was the newest tool in the toolkit, and cast your mind back 125 years when they invented electricity. We are naturally reticent as a race, as a species. I was once told that we are hardwired as human beings to be a little bit negative, because that's what keeps us alive. So we don't lean in and stroke a dinosaur, that kind of thing. So so we have to get back to passive to level before we can move forward. I think we're in that tell me more phase. There will always be people that adopt that technology quicker. There always will. There will always be people that go, I'm not having any of that, thank you very much. There always will. My mum is a prime example of that, but she's 90, so I'll let her off. So I'm a bit of a pragmatist with tech, and it's one of the reasons that I don't bring it up too much in conversation, because I think it's still got to find its feet, and then we've got to find our feet within that. So it's the rates of progress are always going to be different, aren't they?
Yeah, no, definitely. And I guess I see my role within that is kind of guiding people. Like, and again, I don't have all the answers, but there's a good chance I know people who do. I've like to think I've got a fairly strong network within the industry. And again, when clients come to me looking for solutions, if I don't have that answer, like, there's a good chance I've got someone in my network I can reach out to, and I'll be leaning on that network a lot over the next 12 months because I do see it as my role as a facilitator to make sure that we are educating people, both my clients and people I'm not working with as well. But I see it as my job to at least show them what the possibilities are, and it's up to them if they want to adopt them or not. But so yeah, that's why I spend a lot of time kind of upskilling myself, because that's what gets my juices flowing. Like, I like to learn new things, and if I can pass even just one little thing on that's going to help someone and save them time. I think time is a big problem that many of us have. And if I can show them something that even saves them 5-10 minutes a day, then I'm doing my job.
Yeah, well, every day's a school day, as everybody always says, and they're never wrong. So it's brilliant to hear that. So, listen, thank you so much for taking the time today to join me on Print Island. I love what you do. I'm a big fan. I think you are an incredibly engaging speaker. I think anybody listening to this will hear that, even with your posh Glasgow accent today. Maybe you should do a speech in the other one just to test that theory. So, but genuinely, Colin, it's been a pleasure to have you on as a guest today in the Lighthouse, and thank you so much for joining me, Colin Sinclair McDermott. Thank you.
Much appreciated. Thank you.